48 hours from now, a court in Dominica will decide whether fraudster Mehul Choksi will be extradited to India or will he be sent back to Antigua. There's mystery surrounding why Choksi went to Dominica in the first place. And at the center of this mystery is a woman. The Antiguan Prime Minister claimed that this woman is Choksi's girlfriend, who he took on a romantic getaway. The diamond merchant's lawyer alleges that the woman was part of a gang that abducted Choksi and took him to Dominica. So what's the truth? Here's our lead story tonight.
A pleasure trip with his girlfriend on a yacht, lured by a woman and then abducted to Dominica, or escaped to Cuba gone horribly wrong. Mehul Choksi missing from the Caribbean nation Antigua and surfacing in Dominican custody 2 days later. Replete with multiple unanswered questions, claims and counters. India today has learned that Choksi was indeed with a girl when he landed in Dominica and that it appears to be a case of being honey-trapped. Sources say the woman was staying in Antigua and sometime back started meeting Mehul Choksi during his morning and evening walks. She also befriended him and later on May the 23rd called him to an apartment to meet her. But when Choksi reached the apartment, many people were already there who allegedly abducted, kidnapped and took Mehul Choksi to Dominica, where he was arrested. Choksi's lawyers, however, say the girl was part of the team which was involved in the alleged abduction and torture of Choksi.
एक महिला थी जो उनके पड़ोस में आकर रहती थी और फिर उन्होंने शिफ्ट कर लिया था, तो उनकी फैमिली में भी आना जाना था। इवनिंग में वॉक पे मिल जाते थे दोनों आपस में। तो जो है इन्होंने वो लेडी पहले शिफ्ट हुई थी और जो पूरा पता चल रहा है कि वो भी इस ऑपरेशन का हिस्सा थी। तो इनको ट्रैप करने के लिए वो लेडी को सीड किया गया था।
The revelation comes days after Antiguan Prime Minister Gaston Brown claimed that Mehul Choksi had fled to Dominica on a romantic trip with his girlfriend.
The information that we're getting now is that he may have taken his girlfriend to Dominica, probably to dinner to have a good time and so on, and got caught. Now, that would have been a monumental error.
Amidst the twists and turns, India today has accessed a fresh set of Choksi pictures from the Dominican hospital where he was admitted. Choksi is seen with apparent injury marks on his body, which his lawyers claim are due to beating and electric shocks given to him.
बॉडी पे इतनी सारी इंजरीज हैं, आपने देखा फेस पे इतनी सारी इंजरीज हैं, आंख फूटी हुई है। तो ये जो इंजरीज हैं ये इलेक्ट्रिकल शॉक से दी गई इंजरीज हैं और ये जेन्युइन इंजरीज हैं। और जब उनको उठाया गया फोर्सिबली या एंटीगा से और यॉच पे रखा गया और फिर पुलिस स्टेशन ले जाया गया, तो ये उस बीच के दौरान की ये सारी की सारी इंजरीज हैं।
Choksi may also have used forged papers to escape Antigua with his girlfriend. India today spoke to the travel firm believed to have ferried him to Antigua. The firm under fire now claims it never transported Choksi or his girlfriend.
Based on the photos that are circulating, I did not see anybody of that look on this particular boat, or not the boat or anybody that we did clearances for. Nevertheless, this boat that came in did not have any woman on board.
The Antiguan Prime Minister earlier claimed that Choksi has been bribing the opposition there to escape extradition. The claim was, however, denied by local politicians.
What is happening here, is that they are literally defending the campaign money. So here's a situation in which Choksi had the best law firm representing him. But some UPP individuals befriended him, started to take money from him, small contributions. And he promised them big contributions since they told him that they will get their UPP lawyers to get him off the hook. And that if they win the next general elections, that they will protect him.
When Mr. Choksi was taken to Dominica, our understanding is that he eventually was detained, but the persons who brought him there were never detained. But the fact that only he was detained would suggest that those who brought him there had some form of cover. And I wouldn't want to prejudge the matter, but I'm simply saying that that's a question that I would want to see answered.
Choksi's Caribbean caper is no less than a Bollywood thriller. Did the star fraudster himself fall victim to an elaborate fraud, or staged an elaborate stunt to hoodwink India once again? With Geeta Mohan in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me live on this broadcast tonight from Dominica is Carlyle. He's a local reporter who's engaged with India Today for these days as we track the fate of Mehul Choksi. With us also on this broadcast is our Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, who's leading our coverage. And we've got Munish Pandey, who's tracking the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate. Carlyle, I'll come to you first. Give our viewers a sense of what's happening in Dominica. Where is Mehul Choksi at this time? There's a big court hearing Wednesday. Before that, what are you picking up about what's most likely to happen in this court hearing?
Well, let me say, I'm not sure what time it is in India. It should be probably evening. It's morning time in Dominica. I am standing outside the courtroom in Rosa, Dominica. At the back of me, right at the back of me, this is the local courtroom. And that is where the court matter is going to be held on Wednesday. As I speak with you, Mehul Choksi is warded at the hospital in Rosa, Dominica. This whole situation seems to be a soap opera. We are hearing many things. It is turning, it is twisting. Questions are being asked. People are calling the talk shows. They're asking various questions as to what happened, what transpired. No one seems to know exactly the whole truth as to what is going on. What I can tell you, though, is that the whole matter just seems to be more and more confusing. What we expect to happen on Wednesday, when the court matter comes up on Wednesday, here in this courtroom at the back of me, is that Mehul Choksi's lawyers are expected to put up a claim as to what is going to happen. We are hearing also in Dominica that there is a jet which has landed at the Douglas Charles Airport in Rosa, Dominica, with what they purport to have court papers. Also, just ahead of me, and if I turn my camera just on this other side, you will see at the back of me, the Fort Young Hotel is also at the back of me. So at the back of me is the Fort Young Hotel. As I turn across, we have the courtroom. So where the Fort Young Hotel is, it is our understanding from India who will live there for a number of days. I have gone across there. The manager has stated that, yes, there were two persons, but he's not prepared to say much. Also, with this whole boat soap opera that is going on, Cobra Andrew O'Brien, he seems to know some things, but he is saying that, look, I was not the individual who brought this gentleman to Dominica. What is interesting, though, is that he is warded at the Emery Ward at the Douglas Charles Airport, which is just about 10-15 minutes away from where I am standing.
Hold that thought, Carlyle. I want to go across to Geeta Mohan. Geeta, if this was a novel, it'll make for a gripping read, but this is real life. Now we are hearing of this mystery woman who I initially dismissed as being a bogey. Then we heard the Prime Minister speak about this woman, so she clearly exists, and lo and behold, Munish Pandey was able to pull out from his sources in the agencies images of what the mystery woman potentially looks like. That's at least what the Indian investigative agencies believe. So what is it? Is she like a genuine girlfriend, a woman he befriended? Is this some kind of a honey trap that had been set? The lawyers said there were goons waiting and they abducted him and brought him from Antigua to Dominica. You've been tracking the story most closely in our newsroom. What have you figured out so far about what's most likely to have happened, Geeta?
Well, Rahul, it was a female friend who befriended Mehul Choksi, and there were days on where they would go for morning and evening walks, according to reports by Munish Pandey, ending up with an abduction. Now, most of the case and the narrative is leaning towards Mehul Choksi having been abducted. So there was motive there in having him abducted, but the Antigua Prime Minister Rahul very clearly said that there was no ransom call. So it was not an abduction for ransom. So what is it for? What was it for? He ends up in Dominica. He ends up hurt, bruised, and completely bashed up. We do not know how he got those bruises. We do not also have the medical reports to suggest that indeed it was torture or whether it was self-inflicted. We don't have all those details on us. What we do know is that the Dominican government says he entered illegally. If he entered illegally, then the question again arises, which is a question that Antiguan opposition leaders, as also skeptics within Dominica, are asking, that how come a man who sought help from so many quarters ends up in Dominica hurt and is the only sole person arrested? What about the others, his accomplices, the woman, the goons who helped the woman beat him up, abduct him, and then take him to Dominica? So there are a lot of loopholes in this entire narrative. It just seems for now, Rahul, that each and every principal, each and every player or stakeholder in this entire story is trying to build a narrative for his or to his or her own interest.
So, Munish Pandey, you're speaking to sources in the ED and the CBI. What are they telling you? What do they know about this mystery woman who seems to have trapped Mehul Choksi, as it were, brought him in? Or is there some truth to the buzz that this is some kind of an intelligence operation and they were hoping to bring him to India and this is part of that larger plan and that's how he's moved from Antigua to Dominica? Or are we just watching too many serials on Netflix and Amazon?
Well, Rahul, as far as the first part is concerned, existence of a woman and relation to Mehul Choksi, that part is confirmed first by the Antiguan Prime Minister and then by the lawyers of Mehul Choksi. Now, coming to the main point, whether there was any abduction or not. Remember, there are two officers in the Central Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement Directorate. They have been asked to stay in touch with the officials who are already in Dominica. So, what they are trying to do is they are trying to make a case against Mehul Choksi. All the documents have been given to the officers who have gone to Dominica, and these officers will try to convince the Dominican authorities, the Dominican court, that this man who is in your country is accused of a very serious crime, accused of a very serious economic crime, and he should be sent back to India based on a red corner notice. So there is no point of nationality. As far as this woman is concerned, officials in the Enforcement Directorate and Central Bureau of Investigation, they are saying that no matter what the man is, there are some mistakes by any person. We have seen mistakes by Nirav Modi, we have seen mistakes by Mehul Choksi. Maybe this was a mistake by Mehul Choksi. But as far as this raw theory or operation by the intelligence officials are concerned, everyone is tight-lipped. Many officials are saying that it might have been operation by the Indian authorities, but no one is coming on record. And everyone is saying that this is a golden opportunity for India to bring back Mehul Choksi, because if he goes back to Antigua, the extradition case will stuck for years. And because he is in a third country illegally, he can be brought back, and India has a very strong case against Mehul Choksi.
Okay, I want to introduce at this time our guest joining us on this broadcast. First and foremost, Vijay Agarwal. He's the lawyer for Mehul Choksi. With us also is one of our leading lawyers, advocates, R.M.R. Sundaram. I have Pawan Lal. He's the author of a book called Flawed, The Rise and Fall of India's Diamond Mughal. Rajiv Dogra is a well-known former diplomat. Navneet Wasan has been Joint Director of the Central Bureau of Investigation. I want to go across to Vijay Agarwal first, because Mr. Agarwal, you know, you're making the case that the injury marks, and I want to call those injury marks out and have them on our screen right now, are because goons or people belonging to some agency beat up Mehul Choksi. What evidence do you have to back this? How do we know these pictures are recent and they're not old? And what are you making of this whole affair of Mehul Choksi leaving Antigua, showing up in Dominica?
At the back of the pictures, you can see the images of the hospital that Mehul Choksi is in. These pictures have been filed in the Dominican courts, and there are various channels who've reached the hospital and they have verified these pictures. So one. Two is that we need just very little common sense to understand this. Let us assume that the theory is that the Mehul Choksi wanted to escape and he was running away. Then any person who's trying to run away, he would carry his passport. His passport is lying at his house in Antigua. So if he wanted to go to Dominica, from there he wanted to slip to Cuba. So why will he not carry his passport? One. Two is that this lady, if she is not from some agency, she was not the part of the team, where is this lady now? Then in case he was illegally entering into Dominica, then where is the yacht? Then where are the people who were driving the yacht? So all these are very various questions. So I was hearing you see, so you know everyone is watching these Amazon and Netflix movies during this corona, but facts are stranger than fiction. So it is so commonsensical that Antigua was the best place on this earth legally for Mr. Mehul Choksi to be there, because there was a stay which we had got by challenging the Antigua Extradition Act as well as Citizenship Act. So he was legally safe. And moreover, Antigua is just now, on one channel, I heard the interview of the opposition party chairman, some lady, Ishaq. So she said that Antigua's standard of living and everything is much better than Dominica. And so everything that he would have got in Dominica, Mr. Mehul Choksi already had. So there is no logical, commonsensical reason for him to run away. And let me tell you, with my experience in criminal law, if somebody has to inflict injury, he will never inflict injury on his face. You can see the blood oozing out of his eyes. There are injury marks on the face, and there are electrical shock marks. And so he did not have this. They say whenever there is a crime, there is a motive. So he did not have a motive. He was perfectly safe in Antigua, filing cases, fighting his cases. I was having a Zoom call.
So what do you think happened?
Around the world every week.
What do you think happened, Vijay?
He's been abducted. It is so crystal clear. I mean, we have to only we have to be ostriches and put our heads in the sand not to see it. It is so
Who
clear.
abducted him, you think?
From the east.
Who abducted your client, you allege?
There were people whose photographs have surfaced, so the time will tell that who are behind them. And my experience is that such things are subcontracting. It is not some agencies, officials themselves will try to pull it off. They have some small-time operators who've been engaged, who are trying to pull it off. So who has the motive? Who has the advantage that Mr. Choksi is safe in Antigua? So you want to call him, you are not able to. You are losing cases in Antigua. In India also, I've got to stay in the fugitive proceedings. So out of desperation, throw him out to another country and from there take the help of RCN and try to get him back. So this is the larger picture. So one can easily see it through. So it's surely a botched up operation. And moreover, in case Mehul Choksi wanted to slip away, the moment he went missing from Antigua, why would his family report to the police and create a hue and cry all over the world? They would keep quiet. They would wait for him to surface in some country, or he will be in hiding. And why would he leave his family behind? He was living with his family in Antigua. So this is opposed to common sense.
Okay. Pawan Lal, you've spent some time looking at these fugitive diamond merchants. You understand how their mind works better than most do. What's your sense of what's at play?
So, let me just say on the outset that Mehul Choksi is somebody who's extremely talented at planning his business, planning his life, and charting the course that he's set sail on in the last few years. And I'm not referring to the years after he left the country and got citizenship in Antigua. I'm talking about his career starting from the time that he helped build Gitanjali up into a large billion-dollar listed company with over 30 different brands and hundreds of stores across the country. In fact, Choksi has been singularly brilliant at being organized and ahead of the rest of the field when it comes to planning his own direction and charting the way that his company has moved. If you compare how he built Gitanjali to the way that Nirav Modi, his own nephew, built his company, Fraudster, you'll see the vast difference. Gitanjali actually managed to get listed very successfully. They had loads of brands that were very, very popular, whereas Nirav Modi couldn't manage to do all of that. I think the cracks started to show in Mehul Choksi's business sometime around 2013 when the gold loan facilities changed in this country and banks suddenly could not front you as much money as they were used to doing. And that's when you see the drastic fall in the share prices of Gitanjali Diamonds and his companies, and the business starts to take a hit. Mehul Choksi actually told me when I interviewed him sometime in 2014, 2013, that he wanted to move away from India because it was becoming difficult to do business. And he said it as a matter of casual discussion. But it seemed to me that he was actually planning his moves even then. And I think, what we are seeing right now, as somebody earlier on this show clearly said, is almost operatic in nature, or a Netflix kind of a scenario with, movie potential. But the reality is Choksi has actually been ahead of the curve as compared to his nephew and the authorities. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a few more surprises up his sleeve for us.
Okay. Right. Arima Shundra, Now, you're not a judge in Antigua or Dominica, but if you were to look at this case and give our viewers your best sense on the back of all your legal expertise or what's most likely to happen on Wednesday. You've heard Vijay Agarwal's argument. A similar line will be argued in court. You heard what Munish Pandey was saying, which is what the lawyers representing our investigative agencies will say. What's most likely to happen, you think?
Well, Rahul, to just start off as a little prologue, according to me, there is no earthly sense in Choksi wanting to go to Dominica. He had an Antiguan passport, he was an Antiguan citizen, and he is fighting the battle in Antigua. There's no earthly sense. Therefore, one of two scenarios are there. Either his going to Dominica was an involuntary act of his, or he intended to go somewhere else and either stopped over in Dominica, or on the way matters went wrong, he was mugged or whatever happened. But the fact is, Dominica is not really his best option. And the reason I'll tell you is this. Because in Dominica, there's one of two things which are going to happen. One, he is going to be sent back to Antigua. Having an Antiguan passport, being an Antiguan citizen, that's the obvious place he'll be sent back. Why? Because whether he has committed a crime in Dominica or not, or whether he's committed a crime in Antigua or not, is not the issue. Issue is he's in Dominica illegally. Now, if any person is in any country illegally, that country sends the person back to the place where that person comes from, that is the place where he's a citizen. So the most likely scenario is they send him back to Antigua.
But there's also a red corner notice which India is pushing against.
Yes, I'm coming to that. The other alternative scenario is if India is able to make a big enough case of it, and also keeping in mind that Dominica has no extradition treaty with India at all, except for the fact that as Commonwealth countries, they can claim that they can have some kind of understanding with each other. But if India is able to convince the Dominicans to send Choksi back to India, then that will be a very great victory for India indeed. And in fact, that is one more reason why Choksi would not have voluntarily gone to Dominica, because he runs the risk there of being sent back to India because of the red corner notice. And therefore, it was not in his interest to go to Dominica at all. So to answer your question, the scenario is one of two. The most likely scenario, Dominica says, go back to Antigua, let Antigua do what they want with you. After all, you're here illegally. What was your last port of call? Your last port of call was Antigua. What country are you a citizen of? You're a citizen of Antigua. Therefore, go back to Antigua. That's the most likely scenario. The unlikely scenario, but which will be a bonanza for India, is if they honor the red corner notice and say, well, we are going to send him back to India. But in that case, let me say one thing. You would require Antigua to say, Antiguan authorities to say they have no objections and not make a claim to having him back in Antigua. Now that is the, the joker in the pack, or the trump, as you would say, because what is the Antiguan authority going to come there and say?
So I have over here a comment from Antiguan Prime Minister Gaston Brown, who Sunday requested Dominica to deport the diamond merchant to India. Gaston Brown said that Mehul Choksi is deported to Antigua. He would continue to enjoy legal protection as a citizen of the country, so he'd rather just get Choksi off his back.
Well, that may work against getting him back to India, because the Antiguan president having said, the Prime Minister having said, if you send him back to Antigua, he would get legal protection under the law. Really raises another question. What would the Dominican court say then? Why should we deprive a man of the protection he would get under the law? Why should we not send him back to the most obvious country? And the most obvious country is the country which he's a citizen of, the country which he has just come from, the last port of call, and therefore Antigua.
Now, Neet Vasan, you've been in the CBI. This is not Amazon, this is not Netflix, this is not a novel that's unraveling before us, this is real life. You know what our agencies are capable of and what they're not. Does this seem like a agency outsourced operation, where there's this woman who is put out as a honey trap, as it were? She's used to lure Mehul Choksi, or are we just getting carried away and ascribing to the agencies things which are way beyond what they can do?
For me, it will be extremely difficult to comment on that, because as an investigation agency, or as an investigation throughout my life, we are accustomed and we are bound by the law. We can take actions as per the law, and we cannot take something which is outside our purview.
Okay, so that's your official position, and I appreciate that. but listen to what...
That is not my official position. I'm no longer working with CBI. That's not my official position. That is what one has done in his career throughout. One has not resorted to. Just adding to what Mr. Aryan Sundaram said, you know, he is citizen of Antigua, and his Indian citizenship has been seized. Because if you read Article Sections 8 and Section 9 of Citizenship Act, the moment he acquires citizenship of another country, he ceases to be Indian citizen. So, as far as red notice of Interpol is concerned, now this will be a legal issue whether he can be deported back to India, or as Aryan Sundaram said, he should be sent back to Antigua from Dominica. That's
no,
the problem.
So if I were to leave aside the theory of this being an attempt by the investigative agencies, what do you think happened? Because Vijay Agarwal and Aryan Sundaram both have strong points that here's a man who's safer in Antigua than he is in Dominica. He's left his passport behind. The moment he disappears, as it were, his family is the one ringing the alarm bell. So it's unlikely that he wanted to go himself, because if he was trying to escape, his family wouldn't be calling everyone up and telling them that he's gone missing. So what do you think happened, sir?
No, that's very difficult to say at the moment unless you know the complete facts, because his advocate or his family would certainly be coming up with facts which favor him. So we really don't know. You know, till we come to know of the actual facts, it is extremely difficult for anybody to comment what actually happened. It is only a conjecture that this could have happened.
Rajiv Dogra, I have with me an extradition agreement signed with Antigua in 2018. So with Antigua, we have an extradition agreement. With Dominica, we don't. If you were to be asked for your expert counsel on whether extradition at this moment is possible, what would be the process and what is the probability?
Well, the very fact that there was an extradition agreement signed in haste in 2018 but still has not worked says a lot. That just having an extradition agreement does not mean that you will get your man back. If that was the case, we would have got all 25 cases back from UK. And in last 20 odd years, we've just got 2 back. Same is the case worldwide. Unless you happen to be America, then even from UK, you can get the person back the next day, which has happened recently also. Coming to this case, Dominica does not have an extradition treaty with India, but it has an extradition act, which I've read, and it is, unless government of India has some reason for its confidence to send the aircraft to Dominica in the hope of getting him back, that is a different thing. I don't want to speculate on that. But if we go purely by legal issues and by technicality of it, not having an extradition agreement makes it even more difficult. And above all, the fact is that they have not acted in a hurry. The magistrate has taken his own time. He's given notice that he'll only hear it on Wednesday. That may just be the first of the many other hearings, because first he has to establish the fact whether he's an American passport holder or a Canadian passport holder or a Swiss passport holder, because he doesn't even have the passport in his possession. So the first thing is to establish his nationality. And there, Choksi has every proof that he's an Antiguan national. As Mr. Sundaram, I think, pointed out, the moment he relinquishes, he acquires another nationality, whether it is Choksi or someone else, Indian nationality laws do not permit him to be an Indian national any longer. Whether he relinquishes Indian nationality or not is immaterial.
Okay, so the latest pictures Mehul Choksi from jail show him with injury marks. His lawyer claims that Choksi has been tortured and given electric shocks in custody in Dominica. Choksi's lawyer is also alleging that he was picked up at the Jolly Harbour in Antigua and Barbuda by men looking like Indian and Antiguan policemen and was then put in a vessel. In the next part of this broadcast, we will look at what's most likely to happen on Wednesday. Before that, take a look at our second report.
Trouble mounts for fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi, lodged in a Dominican jail. On Saturday, the first images of the diamond tear surfaced from behind the jail. A bruised Choksi could be seen with a red eye and lacerations on his arm. A pale shadow of his earlier self, Choksi appeared visibly thin and almost dazed behind bars. Now an Indian plane awaits for Choksi in Dominica, with documents from Indian courts to confirm that Choksi is a fugitive, which may lead to his deportation to India.
I can confirm that there's a jet there. My understanding is that the Indian government has sent certain documentation from the courts in India to confirm that, Mr. Choksi is indeed a fugitive. And my understanding, the documentation will be utilized in the court case that will be heard, or the court hearing next Wednesday.
But opposition leader in Antigua slammed his government for requesting direct extradition of Mehul Choksi to India, claiming that Choksi is a citizen of Antigua.
The fact is, the process started here in Antigua quite rightly with a request from the Indian government. Mr. Choksi wasn't just located in Antigua. He's a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda. How can you send someone to a country where they have no citizenship and no right to reside? It has to be Antigua and Barbuda because he's not a citizen of India.
This is a golden opportunity for India to bring back Mehul Choksi, because if he goes back to Antigua, then the extradition proceeding will take years to get over. While Mehul Choksi is using the alleged torture marks on his body to avoid coming back to India, the Indian authorities, according to sources, are already in Dominica to convince the authorities and court there that he is a mastermind of a very serious crime and he should be deported back to India as soon as possible. With Geeta Mohan, this is Munish Pandey in Delhi for India Today.
So on the basis of everything that's in the public domain, Rajiv Dogra, you've tracked such cases in the past. What do you think is most likely on Wednesday?
Well, as I said, that unless there is some amount of confidence in our authorities that he'll be sent back somehow or the other, the normal course would be a very long court battle. Because, as I mentioned earlier, they first have to establish which nationality is he from. He doesn't have a passport. So passport will have to be brought back from Antigua. And once it is established that he is an Antiguan citizen, then they'll go according to the relationship between Dominica and Antigua in such cases, which means he'll be repatriated. He'll not be extradited, he'll be repatriated, because one way or the other, he is an illegal migrant into Dominica at this moment. And for all illegal migrants, for example, there was an agreement recently with UK where we've agreed to take back the illegal migrants. So they are being repatriated. So similarly, if he is an Antiguan national, Dominica will probably, after its due process is over, send him back to Antigua. It seems very unlikely, with the provision which I have given, that he will be extradited to India very soon.
Okay. Navneet Vasan, what's your best sense, sir? After having tracked many of these cases through your life, it's very difficult securing extradition. But the Indian government has sent a private charter, so they're obviously expressing some confidence publicly. Do you think that there's a decent possibility of getting Mehul Choksi back Wednesday?
No, actually, the government must be trying for his deportation, not extradition, because extradition is a legal process, whether in Dominica or in Antigua. So even if we don't have an extradition treaty, on the basis of principles of reciprocity, you can request a country to extradite a fugitive. But here in this case, I think government must be wanting to deport this fellow. And deportation also, since now the matter has gone to the court, now this gentleman is bound to raise, take all kinds of defense under International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, that he has rights and his rights are being violated. And especially now injuries which his advocate is claiming that those have been inflicted. Now he is bound to use all that to safeguard interest and go back to Antigua. I don't think it will be very easy. If we get him back, we get him deported, it will be a great diplomatic victory. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the officers involved must be, patted on their back.
Pawan Lal, how would the diamond community be looking at this? Do they still, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, enjoy sympathy? Or we know that publicly they've cut their ties off with these gentlemen, but privately, do they still feel for them? How are the diamond merchants of India looking at this case?
Well, from what I gather, there's certainly no sympathy. If anything, there's irritation and disappointment in the fact that the diamond community as a whole has been tainted in the last 2 or 3 years because of these blow-ups with Punjab National Bank, and even before Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, there was a similar fraud with alleged fraud with Suraj Diamonds and Jatin Mehta, who, by the way, is also absconding and rumored to be somewhere in the West Indies or other countries. But the fact of the matter is that while the community isn't too happy with the actions of Mehul Choksi, Mehul Choksi is supposedly still in touch with a number of his friends and colleagues and constantly updating them from time to time about what's going on and his actions and his perceptions and thoughts about India and so on and so forth is what we get to hear. Yeah, Rahul.
Okay, Pawan Lal, we've heard from you. I want to end with Vijay Agarwal, the lawyer for Mehul Choksi, and his sense of how confident he is that on Wednesday he'll be able to save Mehul Choksi. What's the best case scenario for you and your client? For Mehul Choksi to go back to Antigua, or could this be in Dominica a long drawn process? Are you at the back of your head concerned that he may actually be deported to India?
No, not at all, because there is Dominican Passport and Immigration Act also. So even if there is a person illegally entering the country, so there is a proper procedure for the same. And as Mr. Sundaram rightly pointed out, that his last port was Antigua. He is citizen of Antigua, and as per Section 9, he ceased to be the citizen of India. So considering all this, there is no doubt in my mind that he has to be sent back to Antigua, much as anyone may wish but the rule of law has to prevail. There are sufficient precedents also that he has to be sent back to Antigua only.
Okay, so we've touched upon different parts of this story. We will track very closely what happens on Wednesday. I want to thank all our guests for joining us.